Winston Churchill had a prestigious life and left a large impact on the world, and a legacy to be known for years to come. The way he crafted words into speeches are considered to be some of the best in the English language. The way he provoked and compelled people to stand strong during hard times is immortalized in history. Churchill's past military experience prior to World War II was vast, and it was accessible to the people so that he knew what they wanted, and those traits are just what Britain needed to come out on top in World War II. Although he didn't win the war all by himself, there were other great leaders and military in the world that helped determine the outcome of World War II. Churchill made many great political and military decisions and inspiring leadership that proves that Winston Churchill was the most influential leader in World War II. In 1893, Winston Churchill was admitted to the Officers' Training School, Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, at the age of 18. This school was a good fit for Churchill, where he studied tactics, map-making, military law, and military administration. Shortly after, in 1895, Churchill's father, Lord Randolph, became severely ill and died in November of that year. This was a critical loss for Churchill, and he decided to follow in his father's footsteps to be involved in politics and to be elected to Parliament. Later in that year, Churchill finished 8th in his class of 150 students at Sandhurst, and then he was transferred to a military commission to be second lieutenant of the 4th Hussars. This was a great achievement for Churchill and the start of his lengthy political and military career. After Churchill graduated from Sandhurst, he traveled all around the British Empire as a soldier and as a journalist, and published his first book of his experiences in India's northwest frontier province in 1896. In 1900, Churchill took his first major step to becoming what his father once was. He joined the House of Commons as a Conservative and held that position for 4 years and then became a Liberal. In the year 1911, Churchill turned his attention away from domestic politics and became the First Lord of the Admiralty. At this position, Churchill prepared Britain for World War I by establishing the Royal Naval Air Service and inventing one of the earliest tanks. In World War I, Churchill created an offensive plan that he thought would drive Turkey out of Gallipoli, but it failed, and after 250,000 casualties in 9 months, Britain surrendered and retreated from Gallipoli. Shortly after, Churchill left the Admiralty. In 1930, Churchill was one of the first to call out the increasing threat of Nazi Germany. Britain ignored Churchill, but after Hitler broke a treaty not to invade Poland, Churchill was taken seriously. Churchill was appointed to Prime Minister in 1940 over Neville Chamberlain. Chamberlain was a pacifist and did not have the personality to be a leader in times of war. He was not supported and trusted by the community, so he stepped down and recommended Churchill to succeed him to the king. Churchill had still not gained all the trust of the people yet. Conservatives opposed Churchill replacing Chamberlain until Chamberlain's death in November of 1940. Churchill's popularity was slowly growing, and as the writer Ralph Ingersoll reported, "Everywhere I went in London, people admired Churchill's energy, his courage, his singleness of person. People said they didn't know what Britain would do without him. He was obviously respected." The day after Churchill was elected Prime Minister, Germany launched an attack on the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Shortly after, Winston Churchill delivered his legendary Finest Hour speech. He stated that he expected the Battle of Britain is about to begin. Because Churchill refused to have an alliance with Germany, he kept hope and resistance alive in the people of Great Britain.
What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin. Upon this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization. Upon it depends our own British life and the long continuity of our institutions.
At this time, Churchill went to naval bases and inspected battleships and sent them out to France into battle. He also ordered freighters and passenger ships to return to neutral ports and worked tirelessly to make the war slide in Great Britain's favor. But it was not going well for Britain. In September, the aircraft Courageous from the Royal Navy was lost to Germany, and the Royal Oak was sank in October. In April of 1940, Britain took another major loss when they were defeated by Germany when they attacked the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. 1940 came with many air raids both ways from Britain and Germany. In September of 1940, Germany planned to raid London with bombs by night. This was devastating and many people were killed. Churchill regularly visited bomb sites. In December of 1941, the USA joined the war, and by the end of 1942, the first US troops had arrived in England to fight alongside Churchill. During this time, Churchill busied himself by traveling to many countries that were damaged by the war to discuss what they needed and how they could be helped. During this time, Churchill created his famous V sign. He held up 2 fingers to symbolize victory, and it was always a beacon of hope for the people of Great Britain. Churchill was starting to have a large effect on the people of Great Britain. A citizen of Great Britain named Miss Carver stated, "Winston Churchill is getting into his stride. We now feel a strong hand guiding the country, someone who knows and understands us. He warns people of horrors quite openly, but this has had a strong effect on me at any rate. Whereas before the war and all of last year, I've been scared of what might happen. Now it is possible to get mentally ready." Churchill also had the support of the people. Another citizen of Great Britain during the time of World War II, Jean Crossley, stated, "I am so utterly glad Winston is in command. I am certain he will not surrender to those devils of Nazis, not 1 inch." In November of 1942, England came out victorious in an Allied victory in Egypt. This is when Churchill announced to a British audience that Britain had a victory and that this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Over the course of World War II, Winston Churchill's motivational speeches were incredible. Philip Paneth reported, "His speeches have always had the appearance of felicitous improvisations, which is explained by the fact that they are the result of very thorough and careful preparation. He usually puts down only a short key sentence or 2, which are then worked up into a speech. When he delivers it, he lifts his head, giving a convincing impression of speaking extempore, although he never departs from the text." In July of 1943, England and Allies went on a bombing raid over Germany, and in November of that year, Churchill met with Allies Theodore Roosevelt and Joseph Stalin in Tehran, Iran, to discuss how to take down Germany. Spring of 1944, 150,000 Allied troops invaded France and were victorious, although taking heavy casualties. They then moved on eastward into Paris, and Germany retreated. In the same year, Allied troops cleared out concentration camps, and the day the Buchenwald camp was cleared, Theodore Roosevelt died. This was a major loss for Churchill, because Roosevelt was an ally and a friend to Churchill throughout World War II. On April 30th, 1945, Hitler committed suicide, and the war was won for England and Allies. On May 8th, the day after all German troops surrendered, Churchill walked out onto a balcony with his fingers in the famous V sign. He addressed a large crowd of British and said, "God bless you all. This is your victory. It is the victory of the cause of freedom in every land. In all our long history, we have never seen a greater day than this. Every man or woman has done their best. Everyone has tried. Neither the long years, nor the dangers, nor the fierce attacks of the enemy have in any way weakened the independent resolve of the British nation. God bless you all." It is amazing to think that this powerful leader started his military and political life with a bunch of toys that were in perfect battle formation when Churchill was very young. In World War II, Churchill regularly visited places that were heavily affected by the violence of war. His speeches are some of the most powerful ever spoken, and his past military experience prior to World War II helped him immensely, and all that proves that Winston Churchill was the most prominent and dominant leader in World War II.